Hello, everybody, and welcome to the utmost power of powerful stuff. It's been a minute, a little dry spell, if you will, since I've had a guest on, and I was doing a friend catch up slash social media ceremony, which we'll get to in a little, with one of my besties, Alex Keller, who's also known as Healer Alexandra to all of you on the cybersphere, and thought that she would be the perfect guest for this episode because even though, as Alex was talking to me about earlier, even though, uh, as a coach for myself and as a healer for herself, we've helped people transition professionally. Both of us haven't often talked about our huge professional transitions that we've seen each other through. Me going from a beverage founder to a coach, Alex leaving the corporate world, pursuing her gifts as a Reiki healer and spiritual advisor. And so we're going to dive into that today. And for all of you who don't know the backstory, Alex and I have also had a slew of other adventures together, not only in the professional sense, but we've also shared a tiny RV together with our husbands in Burning Man. We called ourselves the Cosmic Couples. And Alex was actually on the Powerful Stuff hike that some of our loyal listeners might remember Eileen and I did for our extremely soft launch of Powerful Stuff. And Alex said goodbye to our Venice community in the literal sense in December to travel the world with her fiance, and now they're living in Puerto Rico. And here she is today with me on Powerful Stuff, and I'm feeling the power. Is it the power today or is it the Reiki? I don't know.
I think it's a little of both. I'm so excited to be here with you, Mare. Thank you so much for that intro. It has been such a journey together, like talking about from the beginning of powerful stuff to the beginning of my transition into, you know, owning my business, from seeing you just continuing to build your coaching and then launch your podcasts and your event company. Like there's just been so much, I feel like, that we've grown through professionally, and like you said, the adventures. Like, get you a girlfriend that you can go to Burning Man with and then have a mastermind with the next week.
I know, right? I feel like that's been one of the magic of our friendships is like work hard, play hard, pray hard.
Yes. Wow.
By pray, we mean all of our spiritual witchy activities. Um, but yeah, it's so true. And I just want to rewind, like the whole arc that will take all you listeners on today is kind of going from hearing that little whisper of your calling to actually what you can do about it, to then making the transition and then being seen as that new thing and seeing yourself most importantly in that way. But we really just have to rewind it back to that first friendship walk that we did. Um, wow. Might have been, what was it, 2020, end of 2020 or something like that. I was telling you about like
Yeah.
a situationship I was in, my struggles with Morabeza at the time. You were wanting to co-found a wellness center.
hmm Yeah. I mean, I think that was in spring of 2020.
Wow.
Or like maybe summer, midsummer. It's hard. That time everything runs together. But I remember, I had first seen you. You were teaching yoga during lockdown on Zoom, and that was my first connection with you. And I was like, oh my gosh, who is this woman? She's amazing. And then we ran into each other at like the cafe, that little, I forget what the store is called, but we ran into each other there and like,
The vegan
yeah,
deli.
yes, the vegan deli. And we were like, oh my gosh, hi, let's go surfing. And then those plans didn't materialize to go surfing, but we did have our first friend walk. Um, and I don't know, I just remember we connected so quickly, and you just created this safe space. You just asked me to share my story. And so I just like word vomited my life story to you. And you were telling me like how amazing it was that I had like healed myself through a lot of the trauma that I had and like come out the other side with all of these insights in such a quick period of time. You were like, most people, take like a lifetime to work through this. Like, that's crazy. You were like, you should be teaching people this. And at the time, I was guiding meditation circles and small medicine ceremonies, but I hadn't fully like stepped into my role as a healer or a spiritual advisor. And I was just like, wow, she sees something in me that I don't see in myself yet, which is your gift too. Like that is literally what you do. You see someone's potential and you're like, let me help you get there. And so that first walk was like when you really saw me. And I feel like it was the catalyst to begin shifting, leaving the corp, like leaving building a startup for facilitators when I actually wanted to be the facilitator, not like running
Isn't that
the
funny how
wellness
that
space.
happens? Or like when you were like, oh yeah, and then I'm gonna make this list of facilitators, and I remember thinking like, wait, you could also just be the one facilitating.
Yeah, I
And
was like
then
trying to be adjacent to facilitating because I didn't feel ready yet.
and then after that, I remember flash forward a few months, we were walking to Plate Fit, and for all of you on Class Pass, it's a exercise where you're on like a vibrating machine that Alex and I would always go to.
So
And you're like,
good.
oh my gosh, I got my dream job. I decided to wind down my startup, and then entered back like into the startup corporate space. We're like, wow,
Yes.
corporate Alex.
Yeah. So again, it was like one of these steps that I thought I was taking to get closer to walking onto the path of becoming the healer. But I actually feel like it was, and it was necessary. It did open a lot of doors and opportunities, but it was almost like a safety step, like a sideways step, because it felt really safe. And I got this opportunity to join a startup and build out their psychedelic integration programs. And it was a dream job. I mean, like working in the psychedelic industry at the beginning of the psychedelic boom was huge. And to have this director role and to have responsibilities of being on panels, speaking next to veterans in the industry that have been working with this medicine or working towards legalizing this medicine for 20 years. And, I'm now thrown into that world. And it was amazing, but it was still, I felt like it really pulled me into my masculine energy, having to be super on top of things, analytical, even just rational thinking. It was a mental health company, so I couldn't really bring in the spiritual aspect as much because in the psychedelic space, as they were starting to be legalized for mental health treatment, we really wanted to stick to the science. And I acknowledge that the science is so important and it is imperative to bring up the science in talking to patients and how it actually helps rewire their brains. But there's also a spiritual aspect to a psychedelic experience. And I just felt like I couldn't fully be myself. I felt like the feminine, nurturing side of me that was craving to come out was just being blocked because I'd have to get onto a Zoom meeting and like be on top of everyone about their deliverables. And they'd be like,
Yeah.
"Can you lead a meditation?" And I'd be like, "We're on a deadline, people." So
That's so funny because I remember that time too, and you had your very strict Shefa yoga schedule, and then you're like, quick shower to the office. Like, I was like, damn, Alex has a dialed routine.
oh yeah, I feel like at Shefa, everyone, which Shefa yoga, if you guys don't know, it's what's my yoga home studio, and you taught there, and you still do. Oh, and we do events there. I was gonna say you do
Yeah,
events
we do
there.
have
We've
been
done
there
events
twice,
there. Yeah,
twice together. Oh my gosh,
yeah,
full circle.
yeah. But it's a yoga community, and after class, everyone kind of goes slow and talks to each other, and I would be out the door like running to the shower, just like so again dialed, and it felt like I was getting a little bit further away from this this healer that was wanting to come out. And then I ended up going to Peru, and they told me you're supposed to be on the shamanic path. The maestress that I was working with, the Shipibo shaman. And even then, I still wasn't ready because I was like, I'm working at this startup. And then it took me a whole year to wait to go back to Peru and like have their invitation to work with them and learn the shamanic healing. And I had already trained in Reiki at this point, and I was starting to do Reiki healing on the side for people.
Wait, can
But
we
I was
rewind
still,
back on that? Because
oh,
that was
yeah.
crazy too. Because I remember like after your first Reiki certification, you did like a complimentary session for Spencer and I, which I'm so honored for. And like even right after your initial training, you were like, I'm like seeing things, and you said that we had an unbreakable bond. This was like 3 weeks into dating my now husband. And you're like, I see you guys growing old together and laughing together, which is so funny because like we had no idea if we'd end up together, and now we're like married. And so it's just like even like what however much was that after your first Reiki training, like
Mhm.
really like dialed in and like, you know, instantly like channeling the gifts that you had tapped into.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, again, you trusting me and seeing me in this path. I remember I don't know when that was, maybe like 6 months after my certification or a few months after. And at that point, I wasn't taking a ton of clients because I was still working at Wonder Med and the psychedelic medicine company. And you had just met Spencer, and I was like, let me do a couple sessions for you. And after that session, you were like, why are you not doing this full time? Like what? Where this is you. Like you have this gift. And so I think it's the journey of claiming your gifts and feeling confident in it. And then once I did that, I feel like everyone else started seeing me in that light. And we talked about this earlier, but everything manifested so quickly. And I felt like before I was on the path of forcing myself to like try to build a company, forcing myself to be this director at this corporate. And, I don't even want to say the word corporate, it's the psychedelic space. So it's still very flowing, but
Yeah, as
it just,
corporate as we're willing to get in Venice Beach.
yes.
Oh, it's a psychedelic startup. This is the most corporate I'm willing to
So
get.
funny, so absurd. We
So
just
true.
have to laugh at ourselves sometimes. But even then, I was like, oh, this is just, it's not feeling like me. I'm this spiritual healer. And so once I really accepted that and, started giving sessions to my friends and then building up to accepting clients and then building up to going to Peru and really just owning this path of becoming a healer, everything in my reality started to reflect that back to me. And it was just funny. Like, it was people that I was meeting for the first time were like, oh, yeah, you're the Reiki healer. I'm like, how? How does everyone know this? How does this become my identity
I
so fast?
am. Wait, I love
Yeah.
that. And just to slow it down for the listeners, it's like, and I experienced this too with coaching, and I love what you said of like, taking on like free friends and just getting to like practice a lot at the beginning. And it's like, yeah, kind of like I feel like you with the corporate sense and me with my beverage company, it's like both of us kind of felt like we were in our, you know, regimented fight or flight. There were things like for both of us that weren't, and I'm curious like what those like physical or internal signs were for you. Like for me with the beverage company was like waking up every day with anxiety, um,
Mm.
feeling like, oh my gosh, this isn't like, this feels so heavy, like dreading, like this cage that I had created for myself with it, and then it came to a head the week that, as many listeners would know, who have been listening, shout out, Diana, who I had a call with this week, my first listener I had a call with, but anyways, yeah, like I got like strep throat basically like the week that I was like telling my investors, or I wasn't telling my investors that I needed to shut it down, and then I finally did. But yeah,
Wow.
curious what those
Throat
signs were.
chakra
I know throat
was
chakra,
coming
and
in.
as we
You're
as we
like,
know, like Vishnu to chakra is so blocked. Um, now we do our humming and tapping every day, keeping that throat channel open. But yeah, it's like what are those like initial inklings, those little signs that you had that were telling you like this isn't right, and then we can kind of break those initial things that we've talked about thus far into some points of inquiry for
mm,
our third party, which is our listeners.
yes, I love that. Well, before I touch on those, those whispers coming from my heart, I do just want to mention that when we were on that walk together, that walk to Plate Fit, and I was talking about winding down, the startup I was trying to build. I'm not sure if that was before or after you had wind down more Beza, but I feel like we were doing it around the same time, and you and I both were talking. We had these aha moments, like, wait a minute, I don't think this is fully in alignment for us.
Yeah.
And at that point, you had already had coaching clients, like people were already seeing you as a coach. And I remember being like, it's just funny when someone else sees from the outside perspective, because I was like, of course you can go into coaching full time. Like this is, you're Meredith Baker. Like you really change lives. Yes. And so it's just interesting because until we talk about this right now, I hadn't thought of that parallel that we were both going through that transition at the same time. And you were like, you are a healer. And I was like, you change lives. You're a coach. Like you're a speaker. You're so many things. Manny Jen. But
Anytime.
yeah, I think that the first point, I guess, to come back to your question, is it really helps when you're talking to a friend or at least talking to yourself through your journal and actually starting to get out the frustration points that you're seeing in your life. Because I think those are the first moments when we realize that something's not in alignment. Because oftentimes our intuition or our soul is trying to whisper to us, but when we have the blinders on and we're so focused on just like getting this thing done and executing, it's hard to hear the intuition, especially when we're in that masculine energy. So the first thing that tells us that something's off is like feelings of frustration or constriction or restriction. And that often comes out in conversations with your friends or in your journaling. So just noticing where there's areas of friction in your life and seeing, how that comes up for you and if you have the power to change those things.
Totally. Yeah. I know it's such a good point too, because like on our walks where both of us were kind of sharing those things and like kind of going through these anxieties and then reflecting it back to each other. And then reflecting back, like you said, to each other, like a vision for each other's highest self. And that's why also it's like part of the step of making these pivots is like surrounding yourself with other people that you're inspired by. So if you do have people in your life already that you're like inspired by who have made a powerful transition, it's like asking them what they see in you. Sometimes that can be a really powerful
Mm.
question. Like, what do you see me as, like outside of my current job? Like, what do you think my superpowers are? Because true, like great friendship and especially sisterhood, which I feel like we have so deeply for each other, is like seeing each other's highest self, even when we don't always see it ourselves. And then the other thing to your point too, which is so great, and which is what I tell everyone who's like, I want to get into coaching. Should I just quit my corporate job immediately? And I'm like, no, like you should go into coaching. But kind of like what you and I did, like you were working a job and you did the Reiki training, and then you started like seeing if you liked leading, giving people Reiki
Hmm.
healings. And similarly, I was doing my beverage startup and I took on some clients on the side and like, how did it feel to coach them? Firstly, to like make sure you like it. Secondly, to get like experience and testimonials without feeling like pressured to like make immediate money from it. Because I think too, sometimes people like make it or go all or nothing in their minds and they're like, I need to either like quit this job and go all in or like or not start it at all versus like, okay, I'm
Mm.
gonna like try it. I'm gonna take a few clients on. I'm gonna see how that feels. And then by the time we like do transition, like you did fully to your spiritual advising and healing practice and me to coaching, we both already had clients. We felt good and like charging for it. And it wasn't like an immediate pressure to like support our entire livelihood through our clients, which then puts an awkward pressure on like the people that we're serving.
Absolutely. I feel like that having that kind of safety net and knowing that you can slowly ease into fully pursuing your purpose is really helpful. And I want to bring up, I feel like you brought up three steps. It was the first, like noticing where things aren't in alignment, asking what is my superpower, or maybe asking a friend like that sees you in your highest self, what's my superpower? What are my gifts? And then kind of making a roadmap to start to transition into that. But I want to add a third step, which is, what's not in alignment? What is my superpower? What would I be willing to do for free? What would I be willing to just do out of service, out of my passion for it? And then creating that transition plan because I think, like you said in the beginning, it was, I have this gift I want to share with people. Let me give it away. And that's how I started learning, wow, I really do love this. And I started building up a reputation, and that allowed me to eventually transition it into a business. So to me,
Yeah.
those are kind of the four steps.
Yeah, exactly. Like what would I be doing for free anyways? Like what feels so fun and natural and obvious to me. And sometimes it's like we have this preconception that like work or what we do for money should be like so hard or challenging, because maybe we have like our old beliefs or beliefs we've inherited from our parents or whatever of like, money equals hard work. But sometimes like the thing that we're best at and that feels the most good is actually so easy and obvious that we don't even consider it because it feels like so much
Hmm.
fun for us. Like for me before with coaching, it was like so fun to sit with a friend and vision for them on their birthday and pull their tarot cards and like help them ideate on things. And I would do that for free with friends over lunch. And that is kind of, coaching to an extent of like helping people vision. And you also like providing such a safe space, healing energy just through your presence, like ahead of becoming an actual Reiki healer. But to rewind it back, can you, I remember that this happened around the time of Burning Man, actually, talk about like when you did decide to take that full leap, how was it like, or remember
Mm.
the practices we did with Ho'oponopono, but like telling your coworkers, making that final decision, and then the like ultra fun, like sabbatical you planned for yourself that fall?
Oh, yes. Wow. Taking me back, I remember I was so nervous because I loved my team. I loved the company and our mission. And, when I had joined, I thought I was going to be there for a long time. And so when I was getting ready to share that, no, it's time to leave, like I feel like I've been called to go deeper into my journey as a healer. Um, I remember you and I going through a visualization practice of like them being so happy for me that I was stepping into my purpose and calling and being so supportive. And also me doing everything in my power to set them up for success. And that actually it's for the highest good of both parties, because if my heart's not fully in it, it creates the space for them to bring someone in that is, while also, doing the best work that I could have while I was there and really creating the foundation for the next person they bring in to succeed. Um, and then allowing me to step into my fullest potential and feel really, really fulfilled. And so we created those visions, like envisioned just a joyous celebration of my departure. And yeah, the Ho'oponopono, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. Or wait, I think I said that
Yeah,
out of order.
no, it's perfect. I love you. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Please
okay.
continue. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. At
And
Burning Man, there was a sign that was so beautiful that
mhm,
had it, but it was out of order. And
yeah.
I wanted to like the signs and be like,
Right. That's why I remember that being out of order. And now I question what I say. And I'm like, wait, but you're
yeah,
right. And you actually gave me that book, the Ho'oponopono book. And then we used that together. And I shared that I felt I was being called. At that point, it had been a year that I had put off the invitation to go learn from these shamans in Peru. And I felt like that would be a really good time. And so I, told the company I want to go on this sabbatical to really dive into my path as a healer. And, maybe when I come back, there will be some part time work that I can do, and, we could still support each other in certain ways, but I really want to bring in the spiritual aspect of my work. And so I ended up leaving in October, like the first day of October, is when I left, and I flew down to Peru. And I spent a month living in a teepee with Shipibo shaman in Sacred Valley. And I learned about the path of the shamanic healer. They call it the initiation into the shamanic path. And to be a true shaman, I mean, at least in the Shipibo lineage, you're living in isolation for 2 years. And then you're going back into isolation for 3 months out of the year. It's a very monk like lifestyle. You can't have a normal lifestyle. And so I did that for a month. So I got a taste of it. And I realized, I want to have a family. I like my social life. And so I thought, okay, I don't know if the shaman path is for me, but I did gain so many lessons and insights, and it really opened my gifts further. And it gave me the confidence I needed. I mean, sitting in isolation and working with deep plant medicine for a month straight with no outside distraction from the outside world really made it so clear that I was divinely guided in my path, and that I just had to trust. I kept asking, like, what's my path? And they said, focus on the healing. And when I say they, I mean spirit, all the guides that come
right.
through. Focus on the healing. And I came back from that month and just had so much clarity and was like, okay, I'm launching and I'm going full time into my business. And
You did
now
the
it's
Joe
been,
too.
oh, I forgot about that.
You
Yeah.
did the month in Peru, you did Joe, and then you did like one other thing, didn't you?
Why am
Or maybe it was
I
like
do,
a bunch of, or like vacations
wait,
in the Caribbean or something.
yeah. Okay, so I forgot about that. Yeah.
I did not forget.
Thank you for
Oh, you
correcting
did
me.
psychic development. You did psychic
Oh,
development.
oh my gosh, Mary, you're
I
so
love that I'm
good. Wow.
remembering your sabbatical.
I honestly, during that time, I feel like I was so not in the material world. I was just transcending in another dimension for 2 months straight. So it's hard to recall a lot. But yeah, I ended up going to the Joe Dispenza advanced retreat because I wanted to see what he was doing with heart coherence healing. And, my understanding was it was just kind of another form of energy healing. It was very similar to what I was doing with Reiki, but it gave me a more scientific understanding of that. And then I did psychic development with the same teacher, Jules Davis, who taught me Reiki. And that, after working with the shamans, going to Joe Dispenza, that really opened up my psychic vision. And I started seeing energy fields in Reiki. I was able to see into everyone's chakras and give them very specific readings about what was going on in their life or shifts that needed to happen. Even some mediumship experiences would happen where like an ancestor would come through and I would give the person the description and some validating information. And so that was really encouraging to just show me that I was on the right path. And yeah, from there I ended up building out my niche of energy healing, but in a way that's more spiritual advising, where I would meet with clients, I'd give them readings, and I'd create meditations and breathwork practices for them, and even work through the different chakras one by one to create these full holistic transformations in their lives. Um,
And
but it
just,
took the courage
yeah,
to
for
leave.
sure. Yeah. And there's so much that I want to touch on there. It's like crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh, for hours. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, I just love that you did the sabbatical. I think it's so powerful. And I think even if people aren't feeling called to transition from something right now, like having a sabbatical where you're thrown into a totally different environment and way of being, like you're ultimately going to discover so much about yourself. And I love that you did it like 3 times in 3 months after leaving your job, where you're like, I'm just going to be a student of life, and who knows like what comes of this. I'm unattached to like how any of these three things play out. I'm just going to absorb and be a sponge. Like I thought that was so cool, and it made me like, oh, I want to like do something where I'm a student at least once a year, where I'm like in a new environment, learning a new thing, whether it's for a weekend or a week, or this year, hopefully a month toward the end of the year. But yeah, I just love that you did that. And can we
Mm.
talk a little bit about, and I'll share too with my coaching. And it's so funny, while we were having this conversation, I'm like, I also feel like I'm ready. Not that I'm like, everything is an evolution, right? But like I almost feel like I'm ready to like do the next cycle of my own. Not even pivoting, but like expanding right
Yeah.
now. So like as we're talking through our last chapter, I'm like, oh yeah, it's like almost time for the next one. um, but this with
Wow.
an evolution of coaching and whatnot being a part of
Mhm.
it. But like as I expand into like speaking and powerful stuff and like doing more of these things. But anyways, slowing the conversation down. Um, yeah, like can you talk about, and I'll share from my side too with coaching, because I know we both leaned on each other. Like being an entrepreneur is amazing, but it's also fucking hard. And like when we're offering like stuff from our heart, and then we have given it for free and it felt good, like going through the like energetic rite of passage of like um like charging for our gifts, like feeling or leaning into trust even when like different months fluctuate. Like, yeah, can you share like some of your initial experience with that, going from, a job where you had a salary every month to like this new kind of lifestyle, and like the different iterations that have
Mhm.
gone, especially through the early stages, to
Yeah.
like lean into it fully?
It was definitely scary at times. And I think that I said earlier, like, do something that you love that you'd be willing to do for free. You know, part of me was just like, I still want to give everything away for free. And I remember talking to you about that stuff, and you were like, well, you can't. Like, this is your business. You don't have, you're not working for another company. You can't just keep giving everything away for free. And I was like, okay. And that was hard as a healer, feeling this kind of contradiction of I want to be able to help everyone and everyone deserves access to this, which is true. But I also like can't serve everyone for free. I have to like survive in this material world
Living.
as
Yeah.
well. Exactly. And so that took a lot of rewiring limiting beliefs, and that was another healing process. You know, I felt like I had worked through so much trauma and my limiting beliefs and becoming this healer and just stepping into who I was always meant to be. And then, you know, there's always more work to be done. You get through one layer and then spirit says, okay, it's time to heal something else. And so it came up of, oh, there's some limiting beliefs around money and my worth and my value that I'm going to have to work to dismantle. And so I would say it started with me just like being bold and saying, I'm going to charge this price now. This is my worth. I believe in it, and I'm not budging on it. And granted, in certain situations, I would offer sliding scale, but I limited that to like how many sliding scale appointments I could have. And I think that actually claiming my worth and setting my price at a premium made others see me as a valuable healer.
Yeah.
And so having the courage to do that, and I remember talking with you about like how it was scary to tell someone and like, oh, are they going to get mad? Um, but you really encouraged me to claim my worth. And, you know, it's not just the healing session. You know, like you said, running a business is hard. There is so much work that goes into making this business happen. And when we talk about the parts we're willing to do for free, like that's when you're getting on the call and actually doing the coaching, or when I have someone in my Reiki studio and I'm doing the healing. But all the other business aspects, the social media marketing, the admin work, the
Yeah.
yes, like that's not like work that we love to do, but it's like we're willing to do that because it allows us to do what we love.
Right.
And so, yeah, I remember thinking, oh, I'm leaving a startup. Like at the startup, I have to wear so many hats, and now I just get to be a healer. But then I realized, oh, actually, I have to wear all the hats
As a
because I'm a
healer, like
solopreneur.
I'm
Yeah.
every woman, it's all in me. Um, no, but it's so true. And just to break it down for listeners who are thinking of going into some profession or, you know, service-based thing like this, like how we both kind of got started. Initially, it's like offering it for free for friends for practice. Like you posted, I think, in our WhatsApp group that we were both a part of. You know, for it was around Valentine's Day, like, you know, with
Yeah.
a special for people. And like when I first got started coaching, like I had a different price than I do now, but also even before that, I like did it for free for some friends in exchange for testimonials. And then when I was getting the word out there, like I would give friends like a visioning coaching session for their birthday so people could experience what it's like to coach with me. And in fact, that's something I still do for my dear, dear friends and also like past clients that have been really great because it like comes from the heart. But then like as we start to get those tools under our toolkit and feel even more confident in our price, like you had just talked about, then we start charging more because it actually, we still are providing a lot of free value, like showing up on social media or doing a podcast like this. These are all like
Mhm.
free services that we're giving to people. And so to not then feel bad about, you know, our actual service, like charging a certain dollar amount for. And obviously, when you do that, sometimes like certain people will fall away or won't be able to pay it, but it's like continuing to trust that you're making space for the people who can. And like you said as
Mhm.
well, I like tell people, and this is how I did it with my coaching too, to like go in increments. So like do like charge that like until you're feeling like, oh my God, I'm getting insane results. And it's actually not even making me start to feel resentful, but a little bit like, okay, like it's time to raise my prices and then raising it like one stretch above like what's comfortable for you to say because you
Mhm.
still like believe it but it just maybe feels uncomfortable because you haven't done it and like as we keep like building our our pricing and stuff in that way, and continue then to reinforce that by like the value we're giving people. That's like the best way to kind of like stretch into our entrepreneurial practices.
Hmm.
Just crazy
Definitely.
that. And what I was gonna say too is, and then there's so much, but what is crazy is like within 1 year of you, I remember like August last year, which was like the year mark after the sabbatical that you took. I was like, how crazy that you went to Peru for a month, did Joe Dispenza, psychic development, got like the highest level of like two different Reiki master certifications, did your group coaching program, Your Divine Self, led people in Reiki certifications in addition to your one-on-one clients. And then you and I led a full bloom retreat, which was also the culmination of us leading an event together, which came also from like the very first thing we did together, which was lead both of our my husband and your fiance through a ceremony in
Yes.
your in your bedroom. But I'm just like, how crazy, like what can happen in a year. And like by the year after you had done that, you had a full practice and everyone was seeing you as a healer. And it's just like goes to show, like if you like throw yourself into it and fully commit, like for anyone who's experiencing imposter syndrome, for example, like yeah, can you just like speak to like how that felt in that year to like fully
Oh my
tap in
gosh.
and lean in and own it, and like the experience of like other people seeing you and then you seeing you?
Yeah, that year was crazy. And
Chris.
even crazy. Even you just mirroring that back or reflecting that back to me, I'm like, wow, that was a lot in
Yeah.
1 year. And I think that, it's hard to put it into words, but when you align with your purpose and you confidently claim the person that you're becoming, the person that you are, um, spirit just reflects that back to you. Like the opportunities appear, they come before you, and it takes aligned action. But I even remember with my program when I had this vision, it was like I was in a meditation and I got full direct guidance on what I needed to do to create the Your Divine Self program. And I remember going down to the kitchen telling Pavan, it was like, I'm creating this program. It all came to me. I want to do this, and it's going to be like a Reiki energy healing program, which to my knowledge hasn't been done before. People come in and they get Reiki and they go and maybe they get it on like a regular basis, but it's not like a fully guided program. And it came to me in divine inspiration. And then within a few weeks, I had the program built. And then I told you, like, I'm launching this program. And I put it out there and I said, I want to have 7 people in the program. And, it was very slow to start.
Oh
And I
yeah, can you speak
remember,
about that like inflection point where we like talked and
yes.
we're just gonna surrender, like maybe it's yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so this is where it takes that full trust and surrender. I remember you asking how it's going, and I was like, I don't really have signups yet. Maybe it's not time. Like, I can always just do it another time or try again later. And you're like, it's okay. Like if that happens, but a lot of times with my events, people sign up, they like end up signing up like the week before, like a few days before, and it's like that's just kind of how it happens. It all comes at once. And I was like, okay. I'm going to trust and we'll see what happens. And I think the next week I was like, all right, I got my 7 signups. And it was really trusting and surrendering. And once I decided that I didn't need it, like I was like, I'm doing this because I was guided. And if this is what is supposed to be happening for me, like I've taken the aligned action, I've done everything that I can, it will, if it's meant to happen, it will. And then it did. And that also happened with our retreat.
Yeah.
When we got to our retreat, and I'd say you're definitely more bold in that with me. Like and that makes sense. Like you're a coach, like you encourage people to do these things. But I was like, oh, I don't know. Are we sure it's going to happen? We could always push the retreat. And you were like, it's happening, and then it did.
Yeah. Well, and like that was such a funny moment too, where like we like had we got to experience both the like surrender and flow of your healing energy and the like sales are actually service of my energy of like we both, it was like a surrender and flow and proactive, put it out there at the same time. But we were both really like, okay, we're offering people like such a beautiful experience. I'm leading a coaching session, a breath work, you're leading a Reiki and a medicine journey, and our friend Eileen has many of you listeners know, was leading at like astrological readings and cooked really beautiful meals. And so it's like, yeah, people would be delighted to hear about it because they would benefit so much from it, actually. And I feel like both of us kind of having that shift of actually like, oh, wait, like by not telling people about it, we're like robbing them the experience of like knowing about what could be a very beautiful weekend. And all of those women actually, it's been like almost a year, like 2 weeks ago, to us having our full bloom retreat. Like I ran into one of them and she like left a toxic relationship. She's in a healthy relationship now. She was leaving the
Mm.
toxic relationship when she was in the retreat. Another woman had like transformed her family dynamics and also got into like a healthy relationship. And like another woman shifted things in her job. Like so many things
Hmm.
happened at that retreat. And
Yeah.
it was because of us like being like, okay, we're fully committing, we're doing it. And yeah, again, when we got rid of our wishy-washy energy of like, should we, shouldn't we? We're like, no, it's happening. Whoever's meant to be there will.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Our
think it was the
commitment is
perfect.
crazy as well.
Yeah, I mean it's the perfect combination of you and I energy together. I feel like that's why we work so well together. And for anyone listening, definitely when you're stepping into your purpose, finding someone that sees you in your highest self, that is also growing their business, and you guys can either collaborate or just keep each other on track with masterminds. And you know, hold that light for the person when maybe they're starting to feel doubt. And you can do that for each other is so, so helpful. Like who you surround yourself with, I feel like really can expand your world so much.
It's so true. Yeah, I feel like for both of us, like, um, it's been really powerful to have little masterminds and check-ins with each other. And like, what is like the next thing that we could be doing to get our program out there to more people? Or we both, as I mentioned at the top of the episode, we both were like, oh, I'm having resistance towards social media. I really love like my healing or my coaching, but like, and then we both did a ceremony together because we both realized we were both feeling that way, where we like forgave social media. This is so this, guys, so bear with us, but I know you guys are gonna love it. Where we like forgave or we asked for forgiveness from social media for like putting our projections onto it, our projections of like it being a negative space, when actually it's brought us like listeners for this podcast. It's brought us clients, and we like burned those letters together and made new ideal scenes. But just like, yeah, finding friends you can like be honest with and like go through these like transformative experiences with. Wow. So
So
powerful.
important. Also,
Yeah.
you're the queen of circling back. I was actually wondering, like, how is she going to bring this? Because I remember you talked about that at the beginning, and you found a way to weave it
I'm like, I
in.
never leave a stone unturned, a circle uncircled back. Um, Yeah, it's so powerful. But I truly do think of you when I think of like, when people are out there like, oh my gosh, what would people think of me? Or this is a totally different area. Like how you just took bold action from like being like, well, we both were like teen reporters. You were like an Eagles cheerleader and, on like doing like reporting to like going into like Reiki healing, like going in with such full conviction and just like owning it. And like I said to people, like, of course the journey never ends. We're always students, but like so much can happen in a year when you throw
Mhm.
yourself into it and like bring full commitment. It's like that full energy of 1 year of being a full fuck yes can equate to like 10 years of kind of tinkering with something on the side, um, which is
Wow.
really amazing.
Yes. I love that. I feel like just say that again because I feel like when people really hear that and understand that the way that your life can change in a year is beyond what you can imagine. So just like say that again so it really sinks
Yes, we let's go. Um,
in.
but yeah, the way like being fully committed, fully bought in for 1 full year of like deep presence, I'm gonna learn everything I can. I'm gonna throw myself into this is even more powerful than like, yeah, 10 years, a whole decade of just like tinkering with something on the side or slowly learning about it, but not going all in. And I feel like you're like a true master of that, like being like, this is my calling. I'm going to answer the call. Your highest self is calling.
Yes, my
which is
original one-liner.
which is Alex's tagline. So once like she didn't answer the phone, and I was so excited to leave a voice note or mail because I'm like, "Hi, Alex, this is your highest self calling from 777-777-777." So funny. But anyways, I
That's
just feel like
voicemail.
that is so powerful. And like for anyone out there, it's just like taking that first step. Like I said, with Alex and myself, like early in my coaching journey, early in her healing journey, we literally would test pilot our flows that we would then eventually lead together at Shefa Yoga and our retreat with like my husband, her fiance, like our partners in her room where like their dog would come like people's face. Then we invited our husbands and two friends. Then we did like a thing at a yoga studio together. Then we did our retreat, and now we are brewing something amazing for a certain subset of the population. Watch this space.
Hmm.
We can't say more than that. Um, but
CP.
ZP, if you know, you know. But what's so cool about it is just like continuing to be on the upward spiral. And what made me think of just like a fun thing for us to actually do in real time with the listener before we close out with little Medi is to kind of take ourselves through those steps now to see like what is it both of us are on the other side of
Mm.
stepping into, because I want to illustrate that it's totally normal to pivot and shift every few years. Even if you stay in a similar area, there might be new things that you're stepping into. There might be new offerings, and and even if not, it's a good point of reflection of like, how much have I grown? What do I want to double down on? Yeah, because I just really think of like similar to the thing I said about your year. Like I've pivoted so many times, and I'd be curious too, before we go into this exercise, just for you to list out all the different lives of Alex Keller.
Oh
Um,
my gosh. How long
wow.
do we have?
Yeah, mine was like, Abercrombie and Fitch greeter in Houston, teen reporter for the Houston CBS, international journalist focusing on African studies, and then having no experience in the beverage industry, like uh, thinking I could create an alcohol company by just like having a jar in a SCOBY, a kombucha SCOBY, and like selling it at a farmer's market. And then I quickly learned that you need alcohol license, da 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 da. Raised out hundreds of thousands of dollars for that company, like over time. Beverage founder to coach to now, like, yeah, podcast host, Powerful Stuff Productions. And so each of those has required taking a step into the unknown and then just putting one foot in front of the other
Yes.
and trusting. And I always tell people, if we're experiencing imposter syndrome, it's a good thing because we wouldn't be experiencing it if we were comfortable.
Love
Okay.
that.
Let's
Yeah.
hear your lives of Alex
Oh my
Keller.
gosh. So
I love
many. Well,
your
first,
stories. Like I live for Alex Keller West Hollywood stories.
scary times, fun times, but glad that chapter has closed and we've evolved. So many lives lived. Also, I just want to say first that um, you mentioned how you're feeling like a shift coming, still related to coaching, but there's a shift coming, and I'm feeling that way too. So I think we're on the same timeline.
Oh, maybe we're even on the same cycle. I'm
Yes.
on my way now.
Probably. I'm a couple days, so
Okay,
we're
close.
we're close.
Maybe after this
Yeah.
pod. Next cycle, next cycle.
Mhm. We'll sync up. Okay. So lives lived, all the different things. I mean, in college, I was an Eagles cheerleader. I was reporting for my university news station. I was working at the Children's Hospital in Seacrest Studios, which is like this production company that they had there to create mindfulness content for the patients at the Children's Hospital. And then I came out to LA and I worked at United Talent Agency, which is like a huge talent agency if you're unfamiliar. And I thought I had this misguided dream of wanting to work in entertainment. I was working at United Talent Agency. Simultaneously, I was bottle serving because, if you know anything about the talent industry, they do not pay anything when you're starting out. So I was working as a bottle server. I worked as like a Maxim model. I did bottle service for EDC,
Oh my God.
Electric Daisy Carnival. I was also then I worked at the Talk CBS, where I was like working with celebrities every single day. Like I was the talent coordinator. So it was like 3 celebrities a day that were coming on the talk. And I remember everyone would thought that was a dream job and I hated it. And that's when I realized I think I'm in the wrong industry because I don't care about this. And like I don't even really watch TV. So something's not right here. And then I started a travel blog, Conscious Travel, which is funny because now I'm, fully nomad, living just a conscious travel life, not blogging about it. But at the time,
Universe.
yes, like this is where my life is heading. Um, then I worked as a creative director at a jewelry company. And
Oh,
then finally, yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what I was doing there. Then finally started working in sustainable travel, kind of shifted from travel blogging into working for a travel company. And I traveled all over the world, working with like marketing on how to make their products more sustainable. And then, shifted into wanting to build this wellness space. As I was, starting to become a facilitator, and I had this vision of building the space so I could bring in facilitators, and you were like, you are the facilitator. And then in that journey, also, I was guiding medicine ceremonies and meditation on the side. And somehow that led to me working in the psychedelic industry, worked for 2 psychedelic medicine startups, and then finally stepped into my purpose as a healer. And instead of, building a whole startup, just started my private practice. And here we are. So many lives lived, many shifts.
yeah. And for those of you who don't know, Alex has also been living nomadic since December, lived in Maui, Costa Rica, now is rooted in Puerto Rico for a little bit. Um, that's so crazy. And the thing that I want to touch on too, when you were saying that, with like the travel blog, is that nothing is for naught. Like, even if we think like, oh, I've lived, or what a waste, I worked here, it sucked my soul dry. Like, everything has a funny way of working back around in terms of like the value we got from it, the perspective, the wisdom. Like, even though I don't see myself entering the alcoholic kombucha space again ever, like, um, undergoing the psychological warfare that I did as a founder and those skills, like I learned so much. I've helped then so many founders since then as a coach, like having gone through that experience myself, for example, or like an international journalist in Africa, like learning other people's stories, finding common ground, how do we own and share our own stories. So it's like all of these things
Mm,
that being part of our toolkit, that we take into the next chapter, even if it feels like it has no outward semblance to it.
that is so true. When I was going through it, I felt like nothing made sense. But when I look back, all the dots connected. And going through all those different experiences allowed me to connect with so many people from different walks of life and really be able to empathize and just understand people's different lived experiences, which definitely supports me as a healer. And I just want to share this really quick because it's very funny. I think I've
Yes.
told you about this before, but something that I think about a lot and just laugh on of like how crazy life twists and turns is when I was doing bottle service for this one company, I would get a little crazy, a little too crazy on the job. A little crazy. And I ended up getting fired. It was the last bottle service job I took. I got fired because I just got too fucked up on the job. And they were like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm having fun with my table." And I remember feeling so ashamed. I was just like, "Oh my gosh." Like I had never been fired before. And I just felt so much shame and frustration. But I remember thinking this was the push I needed to leave this industry because it was easy money and I could always have that as a backup. And I was like, I needed to be forced out of this industry. And being forced out of that industry really led me to start getting serious about like what is my purpose? What do I want to build? And now the person that fired me like 7 years ago, maybe eight, I'd say it's 7 years ago, is now one of my clients, regular clients.
That's so cool.
Because, yeah, because they saw the growth and the healing and the evolution, and they were like, wow, like I want to work with you. And it's just really funny how those full circle moments happen. Like, the person that fired me so long ago and I had so much shame, I now get to help on their healing journey as they start to connect more with their spirituality and heal trauma. So wild.
Right. I love that example. It's so real because it's like yeah, we never know how things are going to come back around. And like you said, if we feel ashamed about it or as an imposter, it's like, what are we costing the world if we don't share our gifts, you know? And it's like actually that person. And this is what I tell people too, where they're like, who are my first coaching clients need to be? I need to go out, create a viral reel. I'm like, you can build a 6-figure coaching business with like a few hundred followers if you really wanted to, because it's like all about, we are our client zero. And so that person seeing you going from your bottle service days to like in expressing your healing, you know, gifts, they like know you firsthand. And so like that knowing you and seeing that transformation is so powerful for them. So that's why I always tell people like our first clients will probably be people who already know us, who are like blown away by the transformation that they've seen in us.
Mm. Yes, it's so true. I love that
Wow.
musing.
That's so great. I love that. Okay, we'll go into a rapid fire um kind of steps with each other, and then we'll close out with a little Reiki Medi for everyone.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Okay, so that first question I think we said was like, what is that initial like kind of resistance or stirring that's coming up in you that's kind of making you feel like either like that constriction or that you know that you're ready to do the next thing? We'll both kind of
Mm,
answer it rapid fire, and then listener
okay.
pause and answer that yourself. What is that constriction? What is that thing that you're feeling that resistance around that you know it's kind of like you're outgrowing an old shell?
Yeah. Um, for me in my work, it just starting to feel, they're starting to feel a little bit of a monotonous energy because I've been doing the same thing now for a few years. And uh, that to me was the first note of, okay, I think there's going to be a little bit of shifting in my work and how I work with others and what gifts I'm offering.
Mm. Oh my gosh, my answer is similar. Like I love my coaching and one-on-one clients, but when my days are filled with them, I find like that monotony too, and that I'm like, oh, like if I, you know, give a few similar tools or meditations, I'm like, oh, I wish I just had these like pre-recorded so I could just hand them to this person and they could take themselves through this on their own. So it's like kind of my sign similar, like that I'm ready to like expand my platform, expand my offerings because I feel like I could actually like reach more people with the stuff that I'm doing. Uh, you know, otherwise I'm constrained by like hour-long schedules in the Zoom day and like the admin that goes along with that. So yeah,
Mm.
feeling similarly like that. Um, and then the second question, it's like, what is the kind of like next level free thing that's like lighting you up that you're loving to do, or even if it's not free, like that new edge that feels like really fun.
Yeah. So lately I feel like my throat chakra has been really open and I find myself chanting a lot. And in Reiki, part of the Reiki master, you learn how to chant the frequencies. And I never really felt called to the chanting before, but I've been doing them a lot in my practice. And for a long time, sound healing has kept coming up. And when I do my Reiki for events, I, you know, like always play sound healing in the background. And I thought, what if I could learn this and start incorporating that into like my group events or my group healings? And like add the Reiki frequencies to the sound. And so that got me really excited. And that's definitely something like I want to just host in Puerto Rico, like a few community things like that I would do for free because it's lighting me up of like, let me practice this and like using my voice to chant the frequencies and bringing in sound to mix with the healing.
I love that. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to experience one.
Oh,
That's so
thank
powerful. I
you.
have felt such an open throat chakra from you today, energetically. Wow.
Uh,
Um, and yeah, for me, I think there's like twofold. One, it's definitely like this podcast, like having conversations with people, which is kind of, as you know, like what I'm excited to step into with keynote speaking and taking people not just through a speech, but an actual experience. And then also like planning like large scale transformational experiences for people, almost like as if a festival was mixed with like Tony Robbins, but like the Meredith Baker
mm,
flow, because like I
yes.
love doing that for my wedding. For all of you, I like keep addressing the loyal listeners because I'm obsessed with you guys. But like for those of you who know, my husband and I had a festival wedding, and so it's like I loved curating that whole arc of the experience, the different inner and outer connection things we did. And then recently we hosted a camping trip for friends where I had like an opening ceremonies Friday night, of course, always gotta have an opening ceremonies. Gave
Absolutely.
everyone a secret person they had to get to know, and then they had to give that person a card by the end of the weekend. I planned us a hike. We did a show and tell Saturday night to like tap into our inner child and painted rocks, and then
Love
did
that.
cosmic breath work after that. And then of course closing ceremony Sunday. So it's like I want to bring that like self-development doesn't have to be so serious, like tapping into our inner child, tapping into each other, but like an actual, like larger, like weekend powerful stuff experience.
Oh
So
my gosh.
that's mine.
Wow. Let me know. I'll be there. Also, I can debut my sound
Cancel.
healing Reiki.
Full circle. Yes. Um,
Let's
I
do
love
it.
that. And then just like, yeah, as we kind of have done for each other in the past, we'll like reflect back to the other what we see, and then we'll both each commit to a tiny next step. And again, if you're listening, so the first two steps were where are you experiencing resistance? What is that thing that feels really good to leave for free? And then having someone reflect back to you, or if you don't yet have that kind of person in your life, you have us, but you can also reflect back to yourself, like some of the awesome things that you've already done. And then the fourth is the action step. So we'll do the last two, the reflecting back and the next step.
Perfect. Okay.
So,
So I'll reflect back to you.
okay,
Um, to
receiving.
me, this only makes sense as the next evolution in your journey. I feel like you are such an experience creator. You have an events company. The festival wedding was insane. As someone that's planning a wedding and has a team of 5 planners, I have no idea how you did that yourself. So the fact that you have brought people together and you were able to pull that off, and you put so much love and intention behind everything that you do. And I think that you are so playful and there's this like fun side of you. And when you are like tapping into that side of you, you're just in your power. And so like bringing, like you said, the developmental side with the playful side and creating these incredible experiences, I love that for you. And I think it is aligned. And I believe if anyone can do it, it's you. Like it's happening. It's already done.
Wow. Thank you so much, Alex. Receiving that.
Yeah.
Oh, receiving.
Mm.
And for you, I would say like with your chanting and the sound that you're bringing in and everything, like you've already, not only are you such an eloquent speaker as a friend in meditations and otherwise, but also like it's part of your background in your early like teen and early 20 journalism days of using your voice,
True.
having your voice actually heard. So it's already in your DNA. It's something that it's just a new iteration of something from a past chapter of your life. Now continuing, you're already using like the energy in your mind, body, spirit to like channel to people. And now you're getting to bring your voice, which was such a big part of your last chapter, into this chapter on that same frequency that you're already using, your body and your intellect for. So I just know that it's going to be like this really powerful trifecta that like elevates in unforeseen ways all the amazing work that you're already doing.
Wow. I didn't even think of that. So thank you. I had not thought once about how I used to use my voice in my work before, but that circling back to what you said about everything connects, all of the experiences prepare us in some way. So I'm receiving that. Thank you.
Wow. And then what is one little action step you'll take toward this next chapter, this next iteration, this next tiny pivot?
So after I have my Reiki training, like I'm teaching Reiki this weekend, my schedule opens up a little bit, and so I'm going to order sound bowls, and I'm going to just start learning more about sound healing and starting to practice that in my wellness space.
Oh my gosh, it's going to be so beautiful. I can't wait to
Thank
hear.
you. You heard it here first.
You you heard it here first, everyone. Oh my gosh. Um, yeah, and my little thing that I'm gonna do, um, I keep saying it, but I will do it. Um, I'm going to apply for a TEDx. I want to do it by the end of July.
Yes.
And then I'm also going to um, book the next Powerful Stuff workshop. So they were, under more of that in the past, but now as I bring under everything under powerful stuff, so like booking the next workshop and and starting to bring that, like continuing to bring that play and power together, and elements of even more elements of the play like I had on the camping trip.
Wow, I love that. And I feel like it just reminds me, you always say the playful state is the powerful state.
Yes.
That's like your go-to saying, and it's just, it feels like everything's aligning with powerful stuff and everything that all the little avenues that you take are just like merging into this one really beautiful offering, essentially, bringing everything together. So that's awesome. And I can't wait to see you do your TED Talk. I've been waiting for that.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Yeah, and thank you for helping me with like powerful stuff because as all of you might know, like I had an experience company with my, or I still do have it with my friend Eric under more of that, but I was hosting events under more of that and podcast under powerful stuff. And so now it's like Alex helped me really kind of iterate the next chapter of more of that and powerful stuff, which powerful stuff will now get all of my experiences that I had been leading under more of that, which feels aligned because they're similar to the podcast. And more of that will be a platform for community building, and discovery. So, yeah, you are huge in that as well. Do you have time to do
Thank
a
you.
little 2 or 3 minute medi for everyone to help them lock it in? Medi and
Yeah,
Reiki infusion?
let's do it.
Okay.
Okay. So if you're listening, I invite you to close your eyes if you are able to. If not, you can just soften your gaze. And let's take a deep breath together, breathing into our belly and exhaling, maybe sticking out the tongue. Just starting to release and breathing in again. Big exhale. And with this inhalation, I want you to set the intention of what it is you're calling in. So breathing that in, these whispers of your heart growing louder. And as you exhale, letting go of any doubt, as you start to gain clarity on these next steps on your path. And now just returning to your normal breathing, taking a moment to sit in silence as I channel some Reiki energy to you through this meditation. You can envision a white light shining down on you, surrounding your whole body, and beginning to open your heart chakra, the center of your chest, feeling light pouring into this space as you receiving this energy and creating space to receive any guidance from your higher self, your inner knowing about what this next chapter will look like. Gaining the courage to step into your authentic self, gaining the self-love needed to embody your purpose and gift, and surrendering to the path before you, knowing that when you take aligned action, the universe begins to mirror back to you, and your reality begins to shift. Claiming your power as a conscious creator, co-creating with life, and remembering that your gifts are already within you, just waiting to be unlocked. And with that, I'll invite you to take one more deep breath in and to release. You can open your eyes whenever you're ready. Take a moment to express gratitude for yourself for tuning in today, for taking the time to give yourself this gift of presence and to expand your horizon. So grateful for all of Meredith's loyal listeners and for you, Meredith, for having me here. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I felt so deeply relaxed. I was like, it was crazy. I was like, I could listen to her voice all day. And then when I like
Oh,
peeked my eyes open and just like saw you like radiating your smile, moving your fingers toward the screen, giving everyone Reiki, I was just like, ah, so blessed to be receiving this on a Wednesday afternoon.
oh, thank you so much. I love that you just dropped right in. It's like Mare and Alex back at it. And it's been such a gift to be here with you today, taking me on this journey through memory lane. You always remind me of how far we've come together, and it's just I'm so grateful for our sisterhood.
I'm so grateful too. And yeah, this is just the beginning, which is the crazy part. And for all you listeners, hopefully this story was a reminder that, if you have a little calling in your heart, to start to take the first step, and that everything that you're already doing, even if it feels unrelated, is perfectly preparing you for this next step. And it's just noticing where that restriction is. What do you love doing? What can you reflect back to yourself or have someone reflect back to you about your gifts, your superpowers, and what is that tiny little next step that you can take? And before we sign off, Alex, can you just tell the listeners like how they could work with you? What are your offerings? Where can they find you?
Of course. So you can find me at healeralexandra.com, Healer Alexandra on Instagram. I work with clients one to one to work through the different chakras and to kind of target all the different areas of your life through Reiki healing, guided meditation, and breath work. And then I also have a group program, Your Divine Self, that probably won't be starting again until fall. But if you're interested in it, you can definitely get on the list. I also offer Reiki teacher training. So lots of different ways to work with me. And I would love to offer anyone that's listening here a 20% off special for your first time with me. So if you reach out and you tell me you were a listener of Powerful Stuff, I'll give you that gift of 20% off. And I just felt called to share that right now. So, yay.
What a treat. Well, listeners, like I can't recommend. I've done. Alex kindly offered me Reiki on my wedding day twice, actually. I cannot recommend her services enough. It's above and beyond just any single modality. It's truly everything. So definitely take
Aw.
Alex up on that. She's doing a Reiki training this weekend. I'm just so freaking proud. Yeah, and for all of you listeners, as well as I mentioned last week, this is the last week of my group coaching program launch, the upgrade. We begin in July. So if you're interested, reach out to me for that as well. And gosh, if you get Alex's healing services and the upgrade, holy shit, that would be so
Oh,
the utmost
yeah.
power.
You're
Only
gonna look back and be like, wow, so much has changed in a short
so
period. I was
everything
just
has
gonna,
changed.
yeah. I mean, I was just gonna say, I feel like I got the upgrade just from all of the encouragement and pep talks. And I feel like when you said, look at how much your life has changed in this year, I feel like it was truly, you had such a huge impact. So anyone listening, the upgrade is seriously, if you're considering it, this will change your life. There's no other way to put it. Like you'll become the person that you've always wanted to be, and that you've always been meant to be.
Thanks, Alex. And
Yeah.
yeah, this is all just a soft plug for our collaboration coming soon. Somewhere fabulous around the world. Watch this space.
Yes.
Okay, well, this is the first of what I'm sure will be many times of Alex being on powerful stuff. So, um, just buckle up and get ready. Let us know, send us a note of what you're shifting into, what this episode brought in brought up for you. Thank you, Alex, for joining us, and we will see you next week for more powerful stuff. Woo!
Ooh, powerful stuff. I love it.